What's up, guys? Welcome back to Living Life Barefoot. Today's harvest day for me here at Barefoot Microgreens. And as you can see here is my first set of microgreen trays I need to harvest today. So I thought I would take you along with me and talk about harvesting and packaging. So when you're harvesting your microgreens, there are several different ways to do this. That I always prefer using a very sharp knife to harvest my microgreens. Some people use kitchen scissors or shears. I think there's some green harvesting tools, but I always prefer using a very sharp produce knife. If you're interested or have been looking for a really good sharp knife, check out barefootmicrogreens.com. We just came out with our lovely, awesome little produce knives. And they work really well for harvesting your microgreens, whether you are growing for profit or you're just growing for home. A produce knife, very sharp, is what I definitely recommend and what I use all the time. I have found that using a really sharp knife gives you good control and allows you to do a really good quality job at harvesting your microgreens. If you're new to harvesting microgreens, a lot of people do start with the scissors. One thing about the scissors versus using a really sharp knife, when you're using a sharp knife, you get a nice, clean, even cut. When you're using your kitchen scissors, you kind of get a more jagged or frayed edges on your microgreen stems, which will diminish your shelf life. So your stems are gonna start browning a lot sooner. So we definitely wanna make sure we get a good, nice, even cut and have good quality microgreens and a really long lasting shelf life. So we definitely love using our Barefoot Microgreens produce knife. So before you get started, you want to make sure that your area is nice and clean and sanitized. So everything has already been cleaned here. My knife is clean and sanitized. My workstation has been clean. You want to make sure your hair is pulled back. Your hands are definitely washed, or you could use gloves, whichever you prefer. You just want to make sure that before you get started, everything's nice and clean. There are two ways that you can package your microgreens. My preferred way is harvesting the entire tray of microgreens, then putting them in a larger clean tote, and then transferring them into the refrigerator to cool before I then place them into my containers. Another option is to harvest them and directly put them into your container and then put them in the refrigerator. One drawback to this, that will produce condensation inside your containers, and then you're most likely to see that fogginess on the outside of your containers. That's why I prefer to harvest my microgreens first, them in the tote, then cool them off, and then put them into my containers so they are nice and clean and visible, and you don't get that condensation inside the container. One issue that you might come across when harvesting your microgreens, if you're not controlling your humidity and your temperature in your grow room, you might have wet microgreens. You may have to fan dry them. So as you see back here, I have a nice little operation set up to fan dry my microgreens in case of some wet microgreens, which does happen from time to time. I do have a video on this setup here. If you're interested, I will link that here. Make sure you go check that out. Also, another great tip for making sure you don't have wet microgreens on harvest day is I like to stop watering my microgreens about 24 hours before I harvest them. These microgreens were last watered yesterday morning, so they should be nice and dry. You can tell they're nice and full, and they look great. My trays look really good, so we're gonna go ahead and get started harvesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you my technique for harvesting. You can harvest your microgreens directly onto your clean surface, or you can use paper towels, and I'll show you how to do that. It makes it a lot kind of cleaner and quicker to do. So I'll go ahead and show you that. And when you're harvesting your tray, you want to think about harvesting them in thirds. So I'm going to harvest 1/3 of my tray from front to back, the middle third, and then lastly that last third on that last side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. That's why using a nice long bladed produce knife helps with a quicker harvest. So you're going to lightly grab your microgreens where all your fingers are visible, and then you're going to go ahead and harvest right at that soil level or right at the level of your tray there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So another reason why I like to harvest on the paper towel, as you can see here, is right after I harvest, I like to give my microgreens a nice little fluff, as you can see here. And what this does is it allows any of those seed hulls that might be still attached to drop off of your microgreens. Now, those seed hulls won't hurt you, but they could affect the shelf life of your microgreen. So this just takes an extra couple seconds here. It doesn't take long at all. So I do like to give them a nice little fluff before I then place them into the tote and into the refrigerator. And this variety here that I just harvested is actually micro broccoli. Seed hulls will actually start to go bad in your containers faster than microgreens will. So we definitely want to try to get many of those little seed hulls off as we can. As you can see there, I have a lot of those seed hulls left by doing it this way. Another thing that I do when harvesting is I like to harvest all of the same variety together before I move on to my next variety. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue harvesting all of my micro broccoli. I'm gonna use the same technique as I did with the first one that I showed you, and then I'm gonna move on to my other varieties. Now that I have a nice full container, I'm going to go ahead and grab my lid and put it on here, and this is going to now go into the refrigerator to cool off. So as you can tell here, this technique is nice and easy and smooth and goes really quickly. One thing I do like to do in between my varieties is go ahead and wipe off my produce knife. A lot of times there's greens left on there from the previous variety, and sometimes it's a little wet, so I always like to clean that. I like to clean my work area before I start a new variety, meaning a lot of times you have extra little greens of a different variety in your workstation, so that's why using these paper towels really helps eliminate that, and it's an easy cleanup between each variety. So, okay, the last variety that I want to show you to harvest is pea shoots. Look how awesome these pea shoots look. You're gonna harvest them the exact same way, except for obviously your pea shoots are taller, and a lot of times I will not harvest them right at the soil level. I'll go up a little bit. So I usually give the customer about 3 or 4 inches of stem. Usually if you're harvesting them any lower than that and you have a lot of stem, your customers are gonna be cutting off that stem anyway. And a really cool fun fact about your pea shoots is you can get a second and sometimes a third harvest of one tray. That is the coolest thing. So a lot of times, if you're growing for profit and you have room, after you've harvested your pea shoots, go ahead and put them back in your grow room, start watering them again underneath the lights, and they will continue with a second growth. Now that second growth won't be as full as your first one here. Your stems might be a little more delicate. And if you're going for that third grow or that third harvest, just know that again, your stems are gonna be more delicate. You're gonna get less of a harvest, and the sweetness of the peas may not be as powerful as your first and second cutting. 2 things you can use on maybe your second and third harvest is, since they are a lot more delicate and not as many, harvest those and create your own mix with them, meaning you can mix them up with other varieties and have your own unique mix. Or those trays could be perfect to feed your livestock. My sheep love our pea shoots, and also our chicken love our pea shoots. All 3 varieties that I've showed you today that I've harvested, the micro broccoli, the salad mix, and now the pea shoots are all in our grow kit. These are a perfect starter seed to use when you're learning how to grow microgreens. Watching this video and you're wanting to start a business, go check out our grow kits at barefootmicrogreens.com. It's a wonderful way to get a lot of growing under your belt, kind of see how growing microgreens works, be able to go through the planting, the caring for, and the harvesting of your microgreens. Or if you're just interested in growing microgreens for home use or maybe your local community, our kits are perfect for you. So remember, check them out at barefootmicrogreens.com. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest these pea shoots and kind of show you how I do this. Like I said, you're going to go about 3 or 4 inches of stem. Kind of show you there. And I kind of started weird here. I'm gonna start from the back, just grab them and harvest, and then I'll show you what they look like at the very end. The pea shoots smell so sweet and yummy when you're harvesting them. So when you're harvesting the first growth cycle, the stems are a lot thicker, crunchier, crisper. And then when you're growing your second grow and third, like I said, those will get a little more delicate. Not as crunchy, not as flavorful, but definitely you could still use them in a wonderful mix or to give your pets a yummy little snack. So just like the smaller microgreens, super easy to harvest. These may be easier in my opinion. They're easier to grow as well. This variety is actually my kids' favorite, so I'll kind of take you in here and show you what this looks like. So with the pea shoots, I won't be doing any fluffing with these. There's no seed hulls that need to be taken off or removed. So these are good to go into my container, into the fridge to get cooling, and then I'll package them after that. Guys, that's it for this video. I ran out of time, so stay tuned for a new video on packaging. So I went ahead and got my first delivery that I need to make all bagged up and ready to go. I will take care of that mess a little later. And if you're wondering what I do with my remnants of my harvested trays, I do have a video for that. Make sure you check that out. And we'll catch you on the next video. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in a microgreen grow kit or one of our harvesting knives. Have a great day, guys.